Okay, time for dividing fractions. So we've done a lot of work with fractions. This is one of the scariest things that you can do with these scary things called fractions. I think a lot of us were told to rely on an easier thing we can do with two fractions is multiply them. So we were taught when we see this to just multiply by the reciprocal. And the sad thing about this is there's not a lot of reason behind it. It's just taught like, hey, it works, we promise. And it's not very convincing. And it's just kind of the way it's always treated. But here I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, and hopefully we can gain some understanding as to why that process is the right way to go about this problem. So let's think about just 6 divided by 2. That's me asking how many groups of 2 can I find in 6? That's what's happening here. I'm wondering how many groups of 2/5 can I find in a portion of 3/4? That's a big question to ask. So let's try looking at it as a picture. So what does 3/4 look like? Well, from the multiplication section, we saw a diagram kind of like this. And then I'll break it in half and in half again. And then I'll shade in what I have. And what I have is 3/4. So I have 1 box, 2 rows, and then there's my 3rd row. Okay, that's 3/4 of the box, not so bad. Now I want to think about it in terms of how many groups of 2/5 are there. Well, I just cut this up in a way that helps me think about fourths. Luckily I have another axis to work with that allows me to think about it in terms of fifths. So I'll break this axis in terms of fifths. I'm effectively creating 5 times as many areas, right? Not as much area, but it's 5 times as many squares. All right. So now with this in mind, what would 2/5 look like? All right, so 1/5 of it would be a column, right? Because I split these columns, I split unit 1 length into fifths. So 2/5 would be 2 completed columns. Well, I have 3 rows, but how many columns do I have? I don't know, I wrote them as 3/4, and that was what I had. But now I want to know how many groups like this do I have when I have this quantity, 3/4. So I know that I have this many boxes. What if I just move the boxes? Instead of taking that square, I'll take this square. And then I'll erase this one, and I'll be able to fill it in here. Okay, I've just identified a group of them, right? So that was a 2/5, so I have 1 so far. Can I find another one? Okay, well I would need, now to find 2, I would need these 2 columns to be filled, and they're not yet, but maybe I can use what I have. I only have 1 that's not in that space I'm trying to fill. So I almost did it. I almost was able to write 2. But right now, as of now, I have 1 completed segment of 2/5. I have 1 group of 2/5, and then I almost have another one. So I have my 1 right here, and then I would be able to get another one if I was able to fill in this last square. So how much of the way there was I? Well, I would have needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. I would have needed 8 boxes to be filled. How many did I fill? So out of the 8 I would have needed to make another group of 2/5, I had 7. So I had 7 of the 8 I would have needed. So that means that this answer is 1 7/8. Alternatively, I can think, how many squares do I need to make a group of 2/5? I would need 8 boxes. And how many times did I do that? Out of the 8 I needed, how many did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was my first one. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I had 15 out of 8. And that does line up with the process that we were taught. It's 3/4, and then I just change the divide it to times and I flip it over. And hopefully the exercise I've just done has kind of illuminated why that happened. So what did I have originally? I had 3 rows. So I only had 3 things, right? And then I thought, I want to think of this in terms of how many fifths there are. So I effectively multiplied the 3 things I did have by 5, because I considered it as each one is now 5. So I had to multiply the 3 I did have by 5, And now I have to identify groups of 2. So if I think I have a row, well, actually I have to have 2 of them. So I need to divide whatever I have by 2. So I had 1 row, because I need to find more than just 1 column. I need to find 2. So I have to divide the amount here by 2, if that makes sense. Hopefully that illuminates what's going on. I can try to say it again. So originally I had 3 rows out of 4. And then in order to solve this problem, I had to think about these 3 rows as chunks of something that adds up to 5. And then I had to find groups of 2. So how many 2s are in that mess? So I had to multiply my thing by 5. So I could have 5 times as much stuff, so I could consider it as fifths. And then I'd have to find groups of 2 within that, because 2 columns would make a 2/5 appear. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit illuminating. Once you try one out for yourself, hopefully things will start making a bit more sense. So I want you to do everything I had on the board right before I started erasing. And I want you to do that in the assignment section under division of fractions. Just come up with 2 proper fractions and divide them. So I'll do another one just for good measure. So let's try 4/7 divided by 3/8. How many groups of 3/8 can I find in 4/7? So let's draw our box. So what am I working with now? I'm working with 4 things out of 7. So I'll shade 4/7 of this box. So after 7, I'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright. So I have 4/7, and now it's my mission to identify groups of 3/8. What would a 3/8 look like? It would be helpful. Well, this is broken in 7, that's not a lot of use. So I'll break it up in this direction into 8, so I can start looking at 8ths. What an 8th would look like. Okay, so an 1/8 of this box would be 1 row. And now I've originally written it in terms of 4/7, but now I want to consider it in terms of 8ths, and I want to find groups of 3/8. So a group of 3/8 would look like this. This filled all the way down. That would be, oh, I've identified 3/8. And then this would be the next one if I can fill it, and so on. Well, I haven't filled 3 full columns because I oriented it as I originally thought of my group as 4/7. Now I want to find chunks that are the size 3/8. So how many of those will I find? So I'll erase 1, 2, 3 boxes just to start, and I'll fill them in over here. 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to fill in that first set of 3 columns. I'll erase 4 more maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just reorganizing this number so I can see it in terms of 8ths. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think I need 2 more to complete my first one. So 1, 2, I'll erase those. 1, 2. And now it's my mission. Well, I found 1. Do I have 2 of them? I don't think so. I'll erase this one because I'm trying to scooch them into this second bunch of 3/8. So I erased that one, put it here. And how much of the way was I to my second one? I would have needed 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 things. Notice I get the 21, and that appears if I multiply by the reciprocal. I need 21 things, and I'm trying to find how many do I have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 out of the 21 I would have needed. So I have 1 full one from here, and then over here I have 11 out of 21. Or I can think of it as, all right, to get a full segment, I need 21, right? That's what I would need. How many of those did I get to make? A lot of the 4 columns I made, that was all split into 8 each. So that was originally 32, but I can count them up here. I still get 32. So hopefully now you can see the interplay between these things. If I had 4 groups, 4 rows filled out of 7, and then I had to split it into 8, how many things do I have total? I have 32, right? Because 4 things were filled in, and those 4 became 7. Or sorry, those 4 each became 8. So there were 32 things originally when I first made those lines going this way. And then how much do I need to identify a right-sized chunk? 21 of those new sized boxes, the new portioned out boxes. So hopefully the relationship between this process and this diagram starts to get illuminated. So the more examples you do, the more this will start making sense. So for your assignment, I want you to do at least 2 examples. And then everything you do above that will be taken into account for extra credit. Okay, thank you.